Hi there guys, my name is Zach and welcome to my channel. Amongst other things, I'm a reenactor and a jouster, which means that I love armour like this and I love to talk about that sort of thing. Now in one of my previous videos talking about armour, someone made a very good statement, asked a very good question, which is if on a horse you're not moving quite so much as you need to on foot, then why is it so important that a jouster's armour is tailored? And that's a really great question. Certainly, you know, when someone who doesn't ride sees someone on a horse, and this is how I felt before I started to learn to ride again, you kind of think, well, that's not very athletic, you know, you're not doing very much. And if the rider's good, then they'll look like they're doing hardly anything. But what it is as a rider, you're moving in a very different way and you're using very different muscles. So if you haven't ridden before, if you haven't ridden in a long time, I would really recommend, if you're into history at all, go and ride, because when you're looking at anything, you know, pre 1900, everyone in the past has horse sense. You know, they understand horses, even if they don't regularly ride themselves, they understand horses. And so if you're a reenactor or if you're a historian and you don't understand, you know, you've not spent time with horses, then I really recommend you do it, and I think you'll gain a lot from it. And it can really help you understand the athletic needs of someone who is riding, and the athletic needs in a sport like jousting. Now, apart from that, what is really important when you're riding a horse is your center of gravity. Okay, a horse is probably more stable than a motorbike in that it's got four legs, whereas a motorbike has got two wheels. I'm using motorbike because people tend to equate the two, and you see it in films and that, and you know, silly videos messing around on YouTube is that when people want to joust with modern day stuff, they use motorbikes and they fall off all over the place because it's not very stable. But the thing about riding and for jousting is that what actually changes it very much is your armour, and your armour affects your centre of gravity. Now, generally, the lower your centre of gravity, the less likely you are to fall off. Obviously, the more weight there is higher up, the more likely the weight can be moved from side to side over the center of the horse, and when it goes too far one way, then you're going to fall off the horse. Okay. If your armor isn't fitted to you, if you can't move that center of gravity around very easily, then you are going to struggle to stay on top of that horse. One of the really important parts of that is where the breastplate gives you movement. When you're riding, a lot of the contact with the horse comes from the core, the stomach muscles down into the bum and the thighs. Okay, so this gives you your contact, and you need to be able to move that exactly where it's supposed to be, and that will help you to direct your horse. It's not just a case of moving the arms backwards and forwards with the reins, especially once you've got a weapon in your hand, because then you've only got one hand on the reins. So the cuirass needs to be fitted, basically go no lower than the bottom rib, and that gives you full movement of the abdomen and allows you to control the horse much better. If it goes below that bottom rib, then that means that your whole torso is locked up, which if you're fighting on foot isn't going to be too much of a problem. It does stop you from fighting as well, but it doesn't mean that you're going to fall over whenever, whenever someone does something unexpected, which horses do. Even well-trained horses will do unexpected things sometimes, especially when you get hit when you're riding them. Okay, so the cuirass is really important. The helmet is also really important. Now, I've done a video previously about sallets, talking about why I decided to change my previous sallet, because it didn't allow me full movement of my head that I wanted. And that's definitely, one of the things that you need to have. If you're riding a horse, one of the things that beginners, in fact, many of us tend to do when we're getting stressed and not really thinking, is we start looking at the horse's ears, because if the horse isn't doing what we want it to, we're looking at the horse and we're going, why are you not doing that? That doesn't help at all. Any riding instructor, from whenever you first start, tells you that you need to look where you want the horse to go, because the way that you're looking with your head also turns your body slightly, which will also turn your hips slightly, which then ends up giving the horse the cue as to where it's supposed to go. So your helmet and your head need to have good movement. Now, obviously, your head may have movement within the helmet, or it may have movement with the helmet. If you've got a big frog mouth, you may need to move your head slightly inside it. If you've got a sallet, the whole helmet will move with your head. But you need to be able to get that movement, even if it's only slight movement, and so on. The other important thing, and I've talked about this in another video as well, is that the eye slit needs to be an appropriate width in the right place for your eyes. If you're on foot, that is again going to be less of a problem, because you can easily lift the visor or something like that. But as a jouster, lifting the visor to fight is not that's just, don't do it, basically, is the bottom line of that. Okay, so those are two things that are really important to have well fitted when you are jousting, when you're riding. And that was actually when I was putting together this armour that I'm currently wearing, that was the advice that was given to me, is that the thing that you should spend most money on is your helmet, because it needs to be well fitted and you need to trust it, because there's a weapon coming straight for your face. Secondly, your cuirass, that needs to be the second most expensive part of your armour. The arms and the legs are less important for a jouster. They're still important, but they're less important. Now, if you are only fighting on foot, I would probably change the order of importance the other way, especially if you're talking about going to big reenactments and things like that. Now, obviously, the dream is to have everything fitted perfectly. That would be the main thing that you would want. But I would change it round. And if you're only fighting on foot, I would say the most important thing is your leg armour, then your arm armour, and then your torso and your head. Now, why would I change it round? First of all, in most reenactment fights, the head isn't a legal target. If it is, in your group, then you probably want to raise the helmet up the order of importance somewhat. But if the head isn't a legal target, then you can generally get away with a slightly cheaper helmet. The torso doesn't need to move in the same way that that it needs to when you're riding. Generally, you can get away with slightly clunkier movements in the torso. However, as a reenactor, what you're doing more than anything else is you're walking. And so leg armour that is well fitted, that is comfortable, and that is light, so if you can go for spring steel, then that's even better. Well fitted, comfortable leg armour is what is really going to improve your day. It's also something that is really easy to spot a bad piece of leg armour. If the if the greave isn't right, then it looks not right. Okay. A cuirass or arms can be covered with a tabard, or you don't necessarily know when you're looking at someone where their lowest rib ends, but greaves, if someone's wearing greaves that don't fit them, you can tell, and they'll also know as well. They'll be in pain. Right, so you're walking a lot, so you want light, well-fitted leg armor. The next thing that you're doing a lot of is waving your arms around using swords or poleaxes or whatever it is. Okay, so some light, well-fitted arm armor is also very important. I would probably recommend steering clear of pauldrons if you're not planning on doing any cavalry work. Now, we do see pauldrons in use on people who are fighting on foot in the 15th century, but I wouldn't necessarily suggest that means that they were used widely. Now, the reason for this is you've got to remember that most medieval men-at-arms would arrive at a battlefield mounted, expecting to be able to go into battle either mounted or on foot. So if they're expecting that they might be in a cavalry charge, then they're likely to wear pauldrons. What we do see in a lot of art is actually people with mail sleeves over the top. This is particularly in Italy, where the big pauldron is favoured, and they've removed the pauldron over the top, so it's almost like the pauldron is there on the way in. They see, oh, okay, we're not going to be in the heavy fighting now, so they take the pauldrons off, and they've got the mail sleeve over the arm armor. Okay, so I'd probably stick with either a mail sleeve to protect the shoulder or a spalder, because if you're fighting on foot, that gives you more mobility. Now, some people are they're wizards with metal, and they're able to give extremely good movement with a pauldron, but you're never going to get the same amount of movement with a pauldron as you will with a spalder. Why do I say that? That's a big statement there, Zach. The reason I say that is because you see both of them being used throughout the period. So if you could get all of the protection of a pauldron with all of the mobility of a spalder, then the spalder would fall out of use. Okay, but they don't. So therefore, if you've got a master armourer and you get them to make a pauldron and a spalder, you will find that their spalder gives you more mobility and their pauldron gives you more protection, but less mobility. So if you're only doing foot combat, I'd go for a spalder. Right, I've kind of started to ramble there. I think I'm going to call it there. And if you've got any more questions about, armour advice or fitting armour and so on, then do leave them in the comments down below. I'd really like to help out as much as I can, and love this kind of discussion. If you haven't subscribed and you like this sort of thing, please do subscribe if you feel that I've earned it. If you've got any comments or suggestions or questions, do leave them in the comments down below. Do leave me a like. That would be really great. That would help other people find these videos and help my channel to grow. So thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.